The most common mistakes whenever studying Chinese as a foreigner, coming from a Mexican that had previously been studying Chinese in China or in Mexico as a foreigner. So my certificates are back there, and I'm gonna be letting you know today these mistakes in order for you not to make them. So the first one is going to be pronunciation of tones. As you may know by now, if you're studying Chinese already, Mandarin Chinese has 4 tones. So there's like ma, flat tone, second tone, ma, third tone, from up to down, and then up again, ma, and then the hard one, ma. So these 4 tones give different meaning for each word, and you have to really get to pay attention to the tones, because if you put a mistaken tone in a word, then Chinese will not be able to understand. Sorry for that. That is one of the biggest frustrations for us foreigners, being in China and just stating one over another time, like multiple times to that one person. I'm just saying that same word. Why do you don't get to understand me? And the mistake is that we are not getting the tone right, and the person in front of you is just like, what are you saying? It happened to me so many times, and to my friends, like we were, let's say, just, 我是学生, no? 我是学生, huh? 我是学生, what? 学生. 我是学生. So you have to get it right. If you just get to say, 我是学生, huh? 学生, 学生. Now you have to be that precise in order to be understood and also to understand, because whenever they change the tone, although the word is the same, then it's just a completely different meaning. And by the way, I'm just gonna give you a plus here. I somehow discovered I have this inner voice in me, which is like a child, and which whenever I'm speaking, people there think that there's a child somewhere, but somehow this kind of voice for me gets out the precise tones in Chinese. So I'm gonna let you know what I'm talking about. Okay, let's say I'm saying, hello, my name is Maiti, which was my Chinese name. In normal voice will be 你好,我叫麦琪. I think I'm right. And with my special voice, it's like 你好,我叫麦琪. Somehow it just gets better. Why is it so? I'm not very sure. But yeah, I ended up discovering this voice of mine, or this inner talent, which was like dormant in me whenever I was living in China. Somehow I feel like my English is improving as well. The more videos I make, the more better I speak. So obviously, the more output you do in Chinese as well, the better you'll do. So let's go for another phrase. Let's say I'm a Mexican. 我是墨西哥人. Am I right? And my special voice is like 我是墨西哥人. I'm so wrong. 我是墨西哥人. Is that right? If I tend to do it as slow, I just get to be confused. Okay, I'm just gonna be speaking in a normal pace. 我很喜欢中国，我喜欢中国人，因为他们很开朗，跟他们一起玩就是一个开心的事情。我喜欢爬山，喜欢旅游，我喜欢玩，就喜欢喝茶，什么。我非常喜欢深圳，因为我在深圳读了大学，我也喜欢。深圳的环境特别好. I just think it sounds great. So just let me know in the comment section if you are coming here and you are Chinese or living in China. I know that so many recently have been coming over and they are living in China. They somehow understand Chinese. So hopefully you did understand that you did like it, or you end up being so annoyed by it. Just let me know. Anyhow, tones are very important. And if I end up doing this voice, I become flat again, like 我是墨西哥人，我很喜欢中国. I don't kind of emphasize that much as whenever I'm doing that voice, my special voice. Okay, so let's go to second one, confusing characters, similar characters. In any case that you are wanting to read and write, this is one for you. But by the way, just as a disclaimer, whenever you study Chinese, like in language centers, they will be like, we have a listening and speaking course, as well as adding like reading and writing characters in any case that you want to read and write, because not all of the foreigners want to read and write. Let's say you are just going down to China for business. It's going to take years for you in order to be like fluent in reading and writing all those characters. So yeah, now of course we have like digital like tools like the phone, so you can write in pinyin and you can guess like the character, so it's easier. Nonetheless, if you want to read and write, still there's a quite long way to go, I guess. Depends, of course, in your ability, but there are similar characters in Chinese language, so some people get to confuse them and they sound really different and they have different meanings. Nonetheless, they are kind of alike, but there is like a stroke difference or 2 strokes difference. So just because there is like a little difference in it, it means like a different meaning overall. So if you want to improve in that area, I advise you to like look for the meaning of the context. There's always somehow how to say, there was like they are formed by two particles, so if you get to understand that particle, usually you study them, and after that you will find that one with other parts in it. Am I explaining that right? Anyhow, you can use like study cards for that, and overall that's a big one to learn, to like, wow, let's say the character ma, this one, the composition of this one can have so many different others with added particles and other strokes to it, but it's just a different meaning, although maybe it also phonetically sound as ma. Number 3, to do not study radicals. The mistake here is to ignore radicals, and they are the components to the characters that often somehow tell their meaning or pronunciation. As an advice, you can take some time to study the radicals, and this will help you to guess the meaning in new characters. So this is very important as well. Number 4, to do not practice writing in the case that you are wanting to read and write. As a mistake, there's just like people, just like me, I am a guilty one in this one, that we usually tend to avoid writing like pages and pages of characters, and we just want to listen visually, or listen or visually learn with some, let's say, movies or songs, serials, watching MTV songs on YouTube, etc., or like TV. But we avoid at all costs to write down. I don't like to write down even in Spanish or English, so I did that mistake whenever I was studying in university. I avoided to like writing pages and pages of characters, and I did just wanted to have fun, go outside, go to the market, speak with people, listen to people, but I didn't want to sit down at the room in the dorm and just be writing once over another page after page of characters. So my writing is not that great. I could barely remember now anything, but I can write, of course, using my cell phone, because I did kind of learn in a good way a few thousand characters. So whenever I'm communicated with my assistant back in China, I'll just write pinyin and the characters will show up and I will just choose them, and yeah, that's it. So you can practice writing by hand in those pages, and this will not also help you with memory, but will also help you to comprehend better the structure of the character. Do you like writing, or do you avoid writing? You are just like, it usually happens like this. Introverts want to read and write and just be at home, at the dorm, at the library, which I rarely was, writing pages and pages of characters and reading and listening, and they rarely go out to speak. They don't want to interact that much with the world, with the people. So their speaking skills are not that on point, but their vocab, writing, grammar, everything, reading is just perfect. And whenever I was studying in the uni, there were these two groups of people, the ones that we were just very busy to do that and just wanted to be out having fun, discovering China, going to markets, interacting with other foreigners, interacting with the locals, and we will just be developing our speaking skills and listening ones, because there was no time for us to sit down and be writing strokes or reading or writing, or like even, okay, vocab, maybe, yeah, we added vocab, but just street style, freestyle, not like reading from the books. So I was one of those, to be honest. I was not the best student. I'm not giving any Chinese classes, therefore. But let me know which one are you. It's just very, noticeable that some people tend to really be on this side and some people really tend to be on the introvert side. I did have two like roommates when I was studying in uni, in BLCU in Beijing, and there was one from Kazakhstan and one from Thailand. Both of them were very introverts, and they spent most of the day after classes just at home. I mean at home at the room, just writing and listening to serials and like doing pages after pages of like characters. And I was the one that was just wanting to talkative one. I'm still the one, so I'm here in my YouTube channel. This was like the Russian style of accent. Anyways, number 5, direct translation. So the mistake here is that we usually tend to think in our language, and we directly will translate from our language to that one language, in this case Chinese from Spanish. Let's say it's my native language. So that kind of sounds awkward, whenever you're speaking with Chinese like suppliers online or Chinese friends or whoever that just gives you a direct translation from a translator online, like a machine. It sounds awkward and somehow it tends to have mistakes. I did already made a video a few weeks ago, when I also explained you how like direct translation mistake cost us a lot. By the way, there's a follow-up for this video and it's not a very satisfactory one for me. I'll do that one. So you have to try to avoid that, just to direct translate, either like think in your language and just directly translate it to that language. And that happens to me also in English. I guess I'm also speaking sometimes in Spanish, although I'm talking in English, but like my way of structuring grammatical sentences or the way I structure things in order to communicate still is not in a very English way, right? So you have to learn to think in Chinese and to make you familiar with the grammatical structures of the language and study phrases, like common phrases that they use on an everyday basis, as well as to just use them. I do have a video for this one, how you get to think in a language. I believe sometimes I can get to think in English and in Chinese too. By the way, I learned more than those languages. Previously, I also learned Italian and French. I think I can get along with Italian pretty well by now. Input, listening, it's okay, but me speaking, maybe it's not that okay because I haven't used it. French is maybe even worse. However, coming back to Chinese, number 6, the incorrect use of particles. So the particles being used incorrectly, just like le, ma, and de. It's a very common mistake, because if you don't get to understand how are they used or why are they used, then you can just put them everywhere. I previously was living in Singapore, and just for the record, why is that they ended up using the particle la everywhere, like using English, although in Singapore they have like 4 official languages. I believe it's Malay, English, Chinese, and Hindu. How do you call it? I'm so ignorant. So whenever they say like hello, how are you, like how are you la? No, that's not right. Okay la. They always use it la. Are you watching from Singapore, or do you ever happen to visit Singapore? You know what I'm talking about. Somehow they adopted this particle and they ended up overusing it. Don't worry la, it's fine la, okay la, see you later la. Yeah, they always use la. Anyways, usually this la in Chinese, sometimes it will mean like past sentence, and ma will mean like an ask, question mark. Let's say 吃饭了吗? Like, have you eaten? So yeah, whenever you can learn them good, you can use them good. And the advice is just to study specifically which particles are used for what and practice them in different contexts in order to understand their functionality. So number 7 is like the lack of practice, the lack of practice itself, like talking way as an output. We usually tend to learn sitting down in a library, learning characters, reading, comprehending, listening, but like a lot of people are lacking on practice, especially if we're living in Mexico or Venezuela or let's say whatever Spanish-speaking country, that there's not a big chance for us to have interactions with Chinese in this case, to practice our language. Just yesterday, there was this comment in my Spanish channel, by the way. I have my Spanish channel, which you already previously saw, many of you, where there was this one follower who said he is learning at this very moment Chinese, but he's very disappointed because he somehow wants to practice, and whenever he encounters Chinese, let's say in the shop or in the supermarket or whatever place that a Chinese is working here in Mexico, he or she just ignores him, and he's just like, ni hao ma, ni zemmeyang ah, and he's just being ignored by them. Like, they are so annoyed maybe that they don't want to talk, and he's like, why they don't want to speak to me? And not just that, they just ignore me, like they don't understand me, and just that happens. So I have very few chances to interact with them or to have the opportunity to practice. And that happened to many. Some others also follow up and they say like, yeah, I've tried that too. And they are not very polite. The ones Chinese here, we're not talking about China. So before you come up saying like, I'm against anything, I'm not against anything. This channel is very neutral. Whenever it comes to like negatives and positives, China, USA, or Mexico, they all have their positive sides, their negative sides. So why we have to tend to prefer anything? We just want to be here sharing our experiences. Anyhow, this also did happen to me previously when I went to this market. I had some videos about the big market area here in Obregón. You have watched them or not? Maybe I will put them down below for you to understand better. Like, there are these wholesale markets here in Guadalajara, and whenever I try to approach Chinese people there, they are very unlikely to be friendly or wanting to practice Chinese. I didn't approach them in any case for practicing, just to make friends, because I do want to have keep preserving my Chinese connections here and so. But yeah, they were not very kind in that regard. And I found it very interesting because whenever we are in China as a foreigner, they do want to approach us and constantly be using us as their English teachers or English tool target. Like, they just keep speaking English, and I'm like, you want to use me just because I'm a foreigner? I'm not even speaking that great English because I'm a Mexican, but I can see that your main objective is just to have an English language partner. Anyhow, let's follow. As an advice for this, in any case that you are not having the chance to interact with people, if the case is that you're not in China and that you don't find friendly Chinese around you, is to look for like exchange. Just like in my case, I was studying Chinese here in Mexico previous to moving to China to pursue my bachelor's, and I went for 2 summers, for each time for a month. So that gave me a big chance to interact with Chinese there, and to really understood that my tones were so not correct, and my pronunciation overall and grammar, everything, just had a big chance to correct myself. So that'll be a very great chance if you have the opportunity to go to China to study, even for a summer short term, or if you have the chance to go 6 months there, 1 whole year. Thumbs up for that, because I love the experience to be a student in China. And another thing is, like, you can be inside a group, like study groups, maybe in your area, in your country, in your city, or use apps to practice with natives. Just be very careful with this one. Have you listened to the previous story that we share in this channel? By the way, there are so many opinions about it. I think it's so grown from both sides. I don't prefer any, like even the Chilean guy or the Chinese girl. They both are grown in so many ways. So yeah, that was just a share for you to listen and to suggest. But yeah, somehow they thought I was preferring, or I was talking bad about China because of that story. That is just so not right. Anyhow, I was going to mention that if you go into an app, just like that story, that one guy went to Hello Talk, you might end up being married or in China, in love with the wrong or right person. So yeah, that's a risk to take. Number 8, to not understand the culture. As a mistake to learn a language, it's always great to comprehend the context, the cultural context and background overall. And for an advice, you can get to know more the Chinese culture, their habits, like their everyday, daily, things. For example, the one word, chifalama, or the one phrase that doesn't mean like if you have really eaten. It's just like a way of saying hello. So those kind of things are very important to have in mind whenever it comes to learning Chinese, because it doesn't translate literally as the meaning. I mean, they don't try to say that, but it's just cultural hello kind of way. It's a cultural way of saying hello. So that will help you better to understand the language and their habits, etc. Number 9, to avoid mistakes. This one is happening to me now, or it happened to me a few years in this channel. To have fear of like falling into mistakes, making mistakes, and therefore avoiding any practice at all. You have to accept that you're gonna make mistakes in order to progress and to learn better, in order to correct yourself. So just have to have in mind that every mistake you make is an opportunity to learn more or to improve yourself. This was my big mistake just in this channel, by the way. I stopped doing videos for like 3 years because I was here and I was very hesitant whether or not you guys would like to watch me, because you previously were watching me when I was in China and I have something to show, like everything about China. Nonetheless, I still have many things to say and share regarding my experiences there and now, plus my experience here in Mexico. And also I know that many Americans are watching, so I can just merge the 3 countries or the 3 cultures and share how is it like to, like, let's say, work here, work in China, work in the USA. How is it like to be married to a Chinese, a Mexican, so we can get to compare with any objective of diminishing one culture over another. They're just pure experiences. And by the way, that your experience was positive or negative doesn't mean anything, or doesn't mean like you have to take that as a rule that will happen for another one. And whenever I'm sharing a negative experience, doesn't mean that I'm bashing the culture or whatsoever. It was just my experience as well. I know that there are positive experiences. So yeah, it's not taken for granted or stereotyping anything. Although there are stereotypes, by the way. I'm just not a common Mexican. I don't eat taco, although I'm a Mexican. I don't eat tacos. And I know that there are stereotypes about Mexicans, but I don't follow many of them. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to be angry at people making videos about Mexicans or whatsoever. So therefore, I don't understand whenever I am talking about China. It's very delicate, sensitive topic. For the USA, I think they take it just like lightly and they just listen to foreign voices. It's like, okay, that's her point of view. That was her experience. And it's not because it's not the reality that I'm living. I'm going to invalidate her experience. It's like every experience is valid, no matter you like it or not. That was her or his experience. So we have to be respectful towards that. So as I was saying, I kind of avoided at all costs to even did any video here because I was so very ashamed to do any mistake. I couldn't think of the idea of sharing like professional knowledge as, for example, business cases that I am every day experiencing with my clients. with my China team with my poor English. I thought my English is not up to standards. How will I be sharing that online? I don't feel professional enough. I didn't feel that qualified regarding language skills, English specifically for this channel. So therefore, I just stopped doing anything. I just decided to stop doing any videos, which is even worse. Just like this number 9 said, like, the more mistakes you do, the better chances you have to correct yourself and go back in track, or to realize even that you are making any mistake. If you don't get to do those mistakes, then you don't get to pass and keep going to like follow the right path, you know. So I believe this channel, From China with Love, my English channel, it's a tool and it's a way for me to practice English, to improve my English, and to also think in English. Just put everything into practice, as I was saying. No matter I get to speak in an incorrect way, just like now I am like so scared that how people from Australia, from UK, from wherever will be watching me. They will be thinking, oh, this is just not up to standards. Her English is so bad. I'm just not listening. Skip the video. So even if that happened, nonetheless, maybe after 10 videos, my English will be better and they will be listening to me someday, somehow. So I have to pass this. So you have to take that into consideration. The better you fail as learning like Chinese goes, not the sooner you will get to correct yourself and keep going. So you have to make some mistakes, or those mistakes, in order to go back in track. Number 10, to not be consistent. Sometimes people get to want to learn a thing or do a thing just like me, this YouTube video in English, and just do it sporadically, not very consistent. And I'm gonna learn Chinese, so I have this weekend off, I'm just gonna learn. Next weekend I don't have off, so I just wanna have fun, I'm just gonna procrastinate or like extend, let's say, next week. So you don't have like a real rhythm, and you don't get to have that momentum that you are progressing and that feeling of satisfaction that somehow you are every day improving. Just like I believe I am now with this YouTube channel. YouTube channel. I think French do like that. YouTube channel. With this YouTube channel, please let me know in the comment section if it's so. Am I improving my English? I would like to speak a perfect one. Anyhow, you have to establish a routine, study routine, a regular one, in order to be there, present, and constantly practicing and improving your habits of like, I'm doing this every so often, so this is what I'm doing, and I have to like reserve that spot or that time, that space, in order to do that activity, which is learning Chinese. In my case right now is making this YouTube English videos, so therefore I decided, or I kind of challenged myself to somehow every day show up here and gave you some insights regarding China, Mexico, and maybe USA culture. Not USA culture, but just like overall my experience living in China, being from Mexico, living in Mexico, doing business with Chinese, doing business with like some American Mexicans or Mexicans, Latins, etc. So learning Chinese can be somehow challenging, of course, just like any other language or any other activity, but with practice and dedication you can overcome any mistake and you can progress. So good luck to you all. I hope that you get to learn Chinese, and I hope that if you have somehow a secret voice like I did, like I show you the one that I had, you also, I'm sure that each one of us has this special personality in other language, just like I am sure I have it in English, but I haven't really come down to discover it yet. But soon we'll be coming and speaking like so fluent here, and my English speaking personality will be showing up for you guys, and you'll be so delighted to listen to it and so addicted to listen to me like 24/7. I'm sure that will happen soon, hopefully.